In 1958, Nikita Khrushchev had a problem. The Soviet Union was winning the space race, but it was losing the computer race. The Americans were making massive strides in microelectronics, and Khrushchev knew that if the USSR didn't catch up, it would be left behind in the new age of technology. His solution was bold and ambitious. He would build a city dedicated to a single goal, replicating America's Silicon Valley. He called it Zelenograd, or Green City. This is the story of the Soviet Silicon Valley and the American spy who helped build it. Zelenograd was built from scratch in the forests near Moscow. It was designed to be a gleaming monument to Soviet technological prowess. The city's labs were filled with the brightest young engineers and researchers in the country, all tasked with one mission: reverse engineer Western technology and develop a domestic microelectronics industry. But the most fascinating person in Zelenograd wasn't a Soviet scientist. It was a man known to his colleagues as Joseph Berg. In reality, he was Joel Barr, an American communist and a former member of the Rosenberg spy ring. Barr had fled the United States in the 1950s and ended up in the Soviet Union, where he was given a new identity and a high-level position in the burgeoning electronics industry. Barr wasn't just a spy, he was a brilliant engineer. He played a central role in the development of the first Soviet computers and microchips. He used his knowledge of Western technology to help the Soviets skip years of research and development. He was a secret parallel channel of information. A man who had once helped steal America's atomic secrets and was now helping steal its technological future. The strategy in Zelenograd was simple: copy and improve. The Soviets would acquire Western microchips through industrial espionage, often using the KGB's Directorate T, and then painstakingly reverse engineer them. They would literally peel back the layers of the chips to see how they were built. It was a massive, state-sponsored operation of intellectual property theft. But the strategy had a fatal flaw. By the time the Soviets had copied a Western chip, the Americans had already moved on to the next generation. Zelenograd was always one step behind. The culture of secrecy and central planning made it impossible to foster the kind of genuine innovation that was happening in the real Silicon Valley. In Zelenograd, you didn't have the freedom to fail, which meant you didn't have the freedom to truly succeed. As the years went by, the gap between Soviet and Western technology only grew wider. The Soviet Silicon Valley became a symbol of the limitations of the Soviet system. It was a place of immense talent and ambition, but it was stifled by the very regime it was trying to save. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Zelenograd was hit hard. The state funding that had sustained the city for decades disappeared overnight. The engineers who had spent their lives copying Western chips were now competing in a global market they didn't understand. Today, Zelenograd is still an important center for technology in Russia, but it's no longer the secret city it once was. It's a reminder of a time when a superpower tried to steal the future, only to realize that you can't copy your way to innovation. But the Soviet Union didn't just have secrets in its laboratories, it also had them in its prisons. In our next video, we're going to the high Arctic, to a city built on the ruins of a gulag camp, where a group of prisoners did the unthinkable. They rose up against the state. The story of the Norilsk uprising